Welcome to an EDH gameplay video by Ready Made Gaming. Today I am joined by Randy, Jim, and Gary. Jim is on the play with Emiel. He starts with a Forest and a Riss. Gary draws, considers his options, plays a tapped land and passes. I draw Soul Ring. I'll play a Watery Grave untapped and play a Soul Ring. That was a good draw step. It's Randy's turn. Randy's on Winota this game. It looks like he's on a basic plains. Gary is playing the Wall Dragon. Draw your deck. Attack with Walls. Commander Arcades, I don't know what his name is. For Jim's second turn, he's going to draw, play a Sun Petal Grove and a Stoneforge Mystic. He's going to tutor up a Skull Clamp, it looks like. No attack. Gary will draw, play an Irrigated Farmland. I will draw, play a Triome, pay 3 mana, and add Jegantha to my hand. Randy lays a Bloodstained Mire and passes the turn. Jim draws. He's probably going to do some things with Skull Clamp. At this point, this is the first game that I played against Emiel. So he missed an attack on the first go-round, and he makes an attack here. He lays a Skull Clamp and a Wall of Blossoms to draw a card. Gary's up, he will draw, he will consider his play, and he will play a tapped land. There's a theme here. It is draw, consider your play, and play a tapped land. I'll draw. Crack a Misty, get my 5th land, and probably run out Jegantha. Looks like at the end of Gary's turn, Randy cracked his Mire to go get a Plateau. There's a Clifftop Retreat, I believe. Plains for Bomat Courier. So Randy's on Winota, so Bomat Courier is actually pretty relevant. Not to mention it can potentially replace the cards in his hand with the cards that it gets from triggers. Not a lot of people have blockers at this point. At least one person has 0 blockers. I guess that is a strictly more accurate way of describing the situation. It's an Aura Shard and a Llanowar Elf to destroy my Soul Ring. Not missing damage here, and he's also not leaving back his 1/1. You can see 0-4 is good enough for him at this point, Mr. Jim there. Gary will draw. Ooh, no consideration. Slamming an untapped land, make the Durgan. All right. My cards are upside down, but I can pretty comfortably blame Grant. He brought a wide selection of meads. Looks like I'll tap Jegantha and reveal a buttload of lands. Oh, there's some cards. There's a Pernicious Deed. I saw Pernicious Deed. I saw Dovin's Veto. I also saw Cloudblazer and Windgrace's Judgment. So I think there was a Fabro Elder as well. If there was a Fabro Elder, I'm surprised I didn't run that out. So I'll discard a Cloudblazer and a whatever that card from my Ikoria is. It's 3 colors. It's the Teamer one. Like you can play an extra land each turn, and every time you play a card, you draw a card, but you discard. I don't know what it's called. This game was a while ago. This game was over a month ago. There's Winota. We got a CZ Peasy. CZ Peasy's going to make him have an opportunity to discard a couple cards, draw a couple cards, make some elemental tokens. Bomat Couriers happening. Wall of Blossoms is jumping in the way of the Bomat Courier. The mail is being stopped by the wall. There's a wrist. It's going to get clamped. Going to get clamped. Yeah. Jim's going to make some more mana with another elf, and then clamp that elf. More clamps. Clamp some good, Jim. Draw some more cards. That's what Jim needs. More cards. That's a Cryptolith Rite, as you can obviously tell, regardless of the blinding glare. That means Jim has some mana here. 3 mana. I don't know what that card is. I guess we'll find out by what he tutors. Gary will draw. Oh, it's an Idyllic Tutor. He's tutoring up Earthcraft, which is, you know, a fair Magic card. Yep. So there's a 1-drop wall. There's another 1-drop wall. This one says Scry on it, apparently. He's drawing cards with his Durgans. He's making tapped lands. Oh, look at all these game actions that Gary's performing. He's in heaven right now. He gets to repeatedly touch his deck and put the cards in different zones and decide whether or not he draws them, and then cast his cheap walls to draw them and then swing for 3 damage. This is I mean, that's the dream. Everything you play is a cantrip. None of them are particularly relevant to the battlefield. You get to manipulate the top card of your deck, whether it's putting it to the bottom of your deck or leaving it there and then adding it to your hand. That's just... All right, so here we go. I'm going to use Jegantha here. Make 5 mana, use 2 of it for the Faber Elder, and I'll use Plains for generic mana. I'll kill the Skull Clamp and deal 2 damage to Bomat Courier. It's debatable whether or not I should have just hit an Elemental token and Bomat Courier to reduce the Winota triggers, but I'll then use 2 more of my Jegantha mana and another land for generic mana. Now this doesn't look right, and I think I just missequenced this. I should have used my 2 lands, including the Triome, for Demonic Tutor, found a red land, and then used the red land, the red mana from Jegantha. Or I'm not exactly sure how I end up doing this, but I mapped it out in my head, and I made a note of this. Jim corrected me, and this is Jim correcting me, and this is me running it back, figuring it out, using the whole brain here. Yep, big brain plays. Pick up your cards, put them back. Yeah, and the audio here is pretty funny because it's literally the exact same result. It's just I was big dumb and did it in the wrong order. But it's all right because Jim's big brain play is about to be turned on him. Yeah. That's the difficult part about Jegantha mana, and later in the game I actually have mana counters that I've used in the past for Storm, like competitive EDH or just legitimate Modern or Legacy Storm, to keep track of my mana, and I break those out later in the game because I feel tremendously stupid right now. There's a Luminous Broodmoth, again, as you can obviously tell by the glare. And here's Jim's big brain play. He's going to be attacked for 1 with this Elemental. Winota's going to trigger. And make a Thalia. And Jim's going to try to block with his wall, but it's tapped. And there was much rejoicing. Jim's going to tap out here for Mirari's Wake and an Earthcraft. Gary's going to go lay a land. Slam a Gatekeeper Vine. Usually, if I play Gatekeeper Vine and I'm on Bant, I'll play I'll usually play the Simic or the Azorius Guildgate in my deck just to get some value off of having it enter tapped and being able to tutor a dual land. Most of the time, our games are pretty slow unless we're playing like an optimized list, and most of the time that doesn't happen. So I'm going to do some attacks, and I'm going to do some Jegantha things here, and here's the mana. Beautiful mana counters. Help me not look like an idiot. That is a Prime Speaker Vannifar. So I kind of built this deck very quickly before we started playing today. And there's not a win with Vannifar. Since then, I've actually been tinkering with this list for a little. I think I should probably just end up replacing Niv with Sisay, but that is because most of the time when I win, it is with a pile of Planeswalkers and a series of Oaths, whether it's Teferi or Liliana's or whatever, or Jace. So I'll make a Klothys in my second main. I'll use Nahiri, I guess. What did I get rid of here with Nahiri? Oh, it was Thalia for some reason. That seems wrong. Probably should have killed the Earthcraft. I still blame the Mead. So some Winota triggers here. Going to make a Combat Celebrant. I'm going to choose to keep my Nahiri around by blocking the Seasoned Pyromancer and taking 5. The Seasoned Pyromancer will come back with a flying counter on it due to Luminous Broodmoth. And he gets to do the easy peasy thing again, which is make tokens, draw cards, all those good things. Makes me go find another token from my token box. Jim goes, unfortunately. There's a land that makes up for the missed land drop earlier in the game. I think he missed a land, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a Serra Sanctum. So that'll make 5 with Mirari's Wake. Mirari's Wake doesn't double, it adds 1 to the mana that it would generate, so that makes 5 white. That's a Karmic Guide to get back a Mere Battlesphere. And Mere Battlesphere and Emiel is a bit of a combo with Earthcraft. You get to make an arbitrarily large amount of Mere, therefore you get to make an arbitrarily large amount of mana, as long as you have a basic land that can produce whatever type of mana you want to make. I don't have Mere tokens. I have them now out in the box, out in where we play Magic, but I just gave Jim a bunch of Delvers because they're mopey 1/1s. Gary's going to go here. He's going to make his own Aura Shards to blow up the Mirari's Wake and draw a card. And in response to Gary drawing, Jim is going to make 4 more Mere to destroy the Aura Shards. Jim will proceed to target Klothys 4 more times, I guess. Klothys has been targeted by Aura Shards. I would roughly estimate a dozen times. No, it's probably under a dozen times at this point, but soon it will be way more than a dozen times. So I'm going to go here. Jim has the combo set up. He has Emiel with the Earthcraft to make to blink Mere Battlesphere to make a whole bunch of tokens, and the Wall of Blossoms to draw his way through his deck. I just kind of have to hope he doesn't see it, and being as how this is the one thing his deck is functionally designed to do, I am assuming that he will see it, but I'm going to use Nahiri to target the Earthcraft. Jim will respond by making a bunch of Mere and then blinking his Wall of Blossoms like, I don't know, some number of times, and that number will be lower than the total cards in his deck. Jim has Teferi's Protection, Heroic Intervention, Veil of Summer. So even with the Dovin's Veto in my hand, I can't win this counter war. And I think everybody's pretty much comfortable conceding at this point. But we play on, as Jim counts out the cards that he will be drawing. I think his first number was 50. So there, Jim goes drawing 50 cards. Yeah, and at this point he has 4 or 5 million tokens. He's got, I don't know, probably somewhere around 999,000 men in his pool, something like that. A little bit less than 998 and change, I think. So this is how he makes white, and because he has Cryptolith Right and any number of cards in his hand, I will fight with Dovin's Veto. He looks through his hand. And at this point, he's explaining that he can just draw the rest of his cards, which is fine. So Dovin's Veto is uncounterable, and that's nice because Jim plays Veil of Summer. And Veil of Summer is a messed up Magic card. There's Core to Calling. And Gary's going to Swan Song that. And Jim is going to reveal the Veil of Summer in his hand. And the Teferi's Protection will resolve. He ends up exiling all of his permanents or phasing out or whatever that card says. And I have a Pernicious Deed in my hand, so I can Pernicious Deed, leave it up at 0, like on 0, and go to Jim's turn, and when he declares an attack or goes to combat or whatever he does that forces him to pass priority, I would be able to activate my Pernicious Deed for 0, but Jim has a Heroic Intervention in his deck as well. So he's explaining that he's pretty much insulated from all of his outs, or from all of our outs, I should say.